Fight fans, if you love the heavyweight division and a clash of styles, we have a great fight for you. Coming up at UFC 266, Curtis Razor Blaydes is going to be taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And for Curtis Blaydes, he has to look at this like Drake. And not like certified lover boy Drake, but find your love, Drake. And listen, you know that song. Just think back to 2009 or thereabouts? I mean, he was popping off, putting T.O. on the map, at least for Canadians. And listen, if you're a Canadian like we are, Toronto's not the center of the universe. Stop it. Ottawa's the capital. Friday night.
Toronto's a nice city, though.
We got an election going on right now as we're filming these, so all sorts of exciting stuff out here. But Curtis Blaydes, to relay that all back together, he's got to go, I'm more than just an option.
Hey.
Stop overlooking me at the top of the division.
Probably not going to happen until you beat Jairzinho.
So for Curtis Blaydes, he has a giant fight coming up against Rozenstruik, a guy that didn't get it done against Ciryl Gane, didn't get it done against Francis Ngannou, but hey, those are the only two blemishes on his record, and that's going to happen because hopefully those two behemoths, juggernauts, and former training partners actually get a fight, and Stipe Miocic and John Jones get to sit in some weird sad corner. Matt, we get this fight where Blaydes got knocked out unceremoniously for Blaydes fans in his last fight, where he's a favorite to the same magnitude as he is this weekend. And Matt, I know you have a point that you want to talk about with Suriname's Biggie Boy, a guy who I was on the train for a really long time. Early. Like I was on this Biggie Boy train as he was coming into the UFC, so I can firmly put my conductor hat on. I was swayed a little bit in some of his fights. Now, do I get back on for a Blaydes fight? It really is tricky because this clash of styles is so specialized that it's just, it really is tough when you're trying to predict a fight like this.
When Jairzinho Rozenstruik moves forward, there is not a more dangerous man in the UFC. Okay, probably Francis. We saw what happened when he moved forward. He knocked out poor Jairzinho. But from the small sample size we've seen, when Jairzinho moves forward, no one can stop him. Like, no one's been able to yet. He moved forward for 3 seconds against Alistair
Could
Overeem.
Junior Albini do it?
Certainly couldn't. When Junior Albini put on the wrestling shoes, then yeah, Rozenstruik had some trouble. But when he threw one combination to start the second round that ended with a head kick, Albini said goodbye to his consciousness, I guess, because that was a very bad knockout. Here's the thing with Rozenstruik. Like, Shaquille O'Neal, if he threw free throws underhand, probably would be the greatest player of all time, right? If he just shot the Rick Barry ones, you'd look like an idiot, but you'd be the best player ever. Jairzinho, we're not even asking you to look like an idiot. Just walk forward and let your hands go. You knock everybody out when you do it. Even look at the Augusto Sakai fight, sorry. Sakai is a good fighter, but not a great fighter. I feel like he's a good prospect, but at this point, we've kind of figured it out. Sakai's a good 10 to 15 fighter, but I doubt he's ever going to get a little bit higher than that.
If you're a good wrestler, you can beat him.
Exactly.
If you're a power puncher forward, you can beat him.
And Jairzinho, for a solid 3 minutes, wasn't either one of those things. He was a weird, hesitant man. But then, at the end of the round, when he finally decided, when I move forward, this guy just backs up in a straight line, Jairzinho lands an overhand left that absolutely folds him. And that's the thing about Rozenstruik. He's oddly ambidextrous for this weight division, and that's something that I've always I always pick up on in his fights that I really do enjoy. He has great power from both sides, and he has great kicks from both stances, too. And that's something that not a lot of heavyweights have. Yes, Ciryl Gane has it, but there's a reason he has an interim heavyweight title around his waist. It's not very common in this division, but Rozenstruik is one of the few guys who can strike from both stances. And this is my other point. Why did Ciryl Gane versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik have to suck so bad? That fight should have been great. It wasn't great, though. That fight should have been phenomenal. But what we saw was Ciryl Gane use his length and his jab to great effect against Rozenstruik. Blaydes, oddly enough, is going to have to use similar tools against Rozenstruik because Rozenstruik's really dangerous on the in-between. When he's got you on those weird, should I shoot for a takedown, should I disengage? That's when Rozenstruik is most dangerous. Curtis Blaydes is going to have to be, like we saw in the Junior Santos fight, for instance, all the way on the outside with his jab or all the way on the inside shooting takedowns. It'll be really interesting because we've seen Rozenstruik doesn't really have much of a game off his back. He's not great at getting back up to his feet. He doesn't really offer any kind of submissions off his back either. Like, he's defensively sound for avoiding ground and pound, but he's not a great fighter at getting back up.
80% takedown defense for Rozenstruik so far in the UFC, and he's fought decent wrestlers, but nobody to the credential of Curtis Blaydes. And the weird thing is, for Rozenstruik, you look at the losses. Well, he was losing the Overeem fight until he didn't in the final seconds of that
Finally
one.
decided to step forward.
But the Ngannou fight, and again, Ciryl Gane by decision, where it was just Gane using his wits and his smarts and able to win that fight. And for Blaydes, Ngannou had his kryptonite, had his number. And Derek Lewis, where he did great in the first round, and then in the second round, it wasn't the first round. And he got finished in that one. So for Blaydes, obviously he is liable and susceptible to get knocked out. And if you call him and you tape the video, don't bother hitting us up. How about that one? So that's a real thing. But when we look at this fight, Matt, Curtis Blaydes is so good at his wrestling. And the real X factor to me is this isn't a 5-round fight. And in the Volkov fight where you're taking on a good striker, Volkov was able to kind of pick up as that fight went on. Can Rozenstruik at least stifle the ground game of Curtis Blaydes early enough to where he can start his own work? Because for Rozenstruik, it's not so much, okay, quick knockout and boom, we're out of here. It's, okay, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, boom, there's Jairzinho. Can he kind of speed that one up a little bit? And is he able to do that against Blaydes? That's the big question here.
So for me, it's a really, really weird thing for Curtis Blaydes right now. Because in boxing, when you have a knockout like he had against Derek Lewis, you're never really the same. Like, and this is a real thing. And that's what I worry about. Like, did Curtis Blaydes getting knocked out that last time, is that going to permanently affect his chin moving forward? Because he is a really durable heavyweight. Even in some of the fights where he's won by knockout, he still eat big shots and then walk through them. And even in the Francis Ngannou fights, like that first loss was a doctor stoppage. He ate some bombs from Francis before he went down. And even the second one could kind of be an early stoppage. Now, he lost by first round knockout, but still, he had a little argument after that fight of, oh, I wasn't really out. When you lose by vicious uppercut and then like 2 clean overhands from a guy who weighs 300 pounds. Those are the types of strikes that do change you moving forward. And yes, he has had 6 months off. And for me, that's normally like my little mental check for, okay, he's good to come back. A really bad knockout loss, don't come back for 6 months. A TKO loss, normally like 4 to 5 still. I don't think you should play around with your brain health at all. But that's my question mark in this fight. If Curtis Blaydes is even 90% of what he was, I think he runs over Jairzinho. Just because stylistically, this is a nightmarish type of a fight for Rozenstruik. He can't get up off the bottom. Yikes. And once he does get taken down, the issue with Rozenstruik is he can't threaten with either submissions or his own offense, so he doesn't have anything off his back. Curtis Blaydes has shown that against guys like even Alistair Overeem, who is a good grappler off his back, he can get really hellacious types of ground and pound off in that top position, and that's why I think Rozenstruik's going to have a tough time out. So for me, the question mark is more around Curtis Blaydes' confidence than anything. If Curtis Blaydes feels great coming into this fight, and if he thinks, okay, if I go out there and ragdoll Rozenstruik, I am 1 fight away from a title shot, then I think Curtis Blaydes won't have a single issue in this fight. If we get Curtis Blaydes who's second guessing himself, who is kind of reaching for a takedown and then maybe not dedicating himself to it, that's when Rozenstruik lands one of those crazy overhands or an uppercut or a head kick or something wild and Curtis Blaydes ends up unconscious. But I'm going to say Curtis Blaydes is going to show up with his wrestling shoes on, and I do think we're going to see that version of Blaydes.
If Blaydes runs across the cage and takes him down, I like Blaydes inside the distance. I even like him by submission in this fight. And if we look at the odds for this one, Blaydes open to -240, roughly a -313 on best fight odds. For Rozenstruik, open to +198 or thereabouts. He's +245. Tapology votes for this one, 1,088, 79% Blaydes, 59% by decision, 31% by knockout for the 21% that have Rozenstruik, 87% by knockout. It's happened before. It could happen again. Let us know down below in the comments section. But Matt, both of us going with Razor Blaydes to pick up another win in this fight to get back off the schneid. I can't wait for this one. And oh, by the way, 3 5-round fights. You're not going to want to miss any of them. So stick around. Diaz is taking on, holy smokes, Robbie Lawler. 17 years in the making. You've got Murphy taking on Shevchenko. And in the main event, Volkanovski and Ortega. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.